The movie starts with Otway's voiceover as he reflects on his job in the middle of nowhere, Alaska, working for an oil company. He feels out of place, surrounded by a bunch of tough guys, ex-cons, fugitives, and people who just don't fit into society. His thoughts drift to his wife, remembering the good times they had before they split up. He used to be a wolf hunter, protecting the workers from attacks, but now he seems to question everything, even writing a letter asking why things have turned out the way they have.
Doing this world any real good.
His heart feels heavy, like he's cursed, as he stares at a photo of his wedding day. Despite the bleakness, he sympathizes with the wolves, realizing he doesn't even like his job. At one point, he almost gives up on life, but a wolf's howl stops him in his tracks, and he keeps going. After boarding a plane, the ticket clerk warns everyone about an incoming storm, urging them to hurry. Otway still clutches his letter, lost in thought, when a guy named Todd starts chatting him up.
Shit neither, man. I stripped down for the showers.
Otway, though, isn't in the mood for conversation and brushes him off, telling him to leave him alone. Todd moves to a different seat. The plane starts to shake as turbulence sets in, and Todd gets a bit over the top, making everyone uncomfortable with his advice about what to do in an emergency. But soon, the turbulence calms down, and the flight attendants begin their rounds. The plane's electronics start acting up, the temperature drops, and then the worst happens. The plane goes down. Otway survives the crash, but is ejected from the wreckage, landing in the snow. The plane crashes nearby, and the aftermath is a mess. There's fire, wreckage, and chaos everywhere,
No, it's bullshit. That's fucking bullshit.
with people screaming for help. Otway helps Todd get up and looks for any survivors. A man nearby seems to think the whole thing is a bad dream, but soon enough, they realize how bad things are. Otway tries to help another injured man who's bleeding badly, but he knows there's nothing to be done. This man is not going to make it.
Die?
As the storm dies down, the group starts to assess the situation. Otway takes charge, telling them that they'll need a fire to survive the night. They're on their own out here, and help could be days or even weeks away.
Won't have time to wait for the one or two.
Everyone starts to gather what they can use, and Otway heads off to find a safer spot. He hears a woman in pain, rushes over to help, and spots a wolf nearby. He tries to scare it off, but the wolf isn't alone. The rest of the pack shows up, and Otway is attacked. Two men from the group rush in to save him, but he's left with deep bite marks. He jokes about turning into a werewolf, trying to lighten the mood, but the reality is they're in serious trouble. The wolves can smell the blood, and Otway suggests they move the bodies to avoid attracting them. While moving the bodies, Otway gets into a fight with Diaz, who's scavenging from the dead. The group sits around a fire, eating their meager rations when they hear the wolves howling. Otway grabs a torch to investigate and spots a huge wolf, probably the leader of the pack. The other wolves' eyes glow, and Otway realizes they're surrounded. He tells the group not to move. Running would make them targets. The wolves eventually back off, and the group decides to take turns on watch, keeping alert in case the wolves come back. But then, one of the guys on watch makes a critical mistake. He leaves his post to take a leap, and wolves attack. By the time Otway reaches him, it's too late. The guy's been killed. The group is shaken, but they can't afford to waste time. Otway tells them that the wolves didn't eat him, which means they weren't after food. They were hunting. They're in wolf territory now, and their best bet is to get to the trees. Diaz complains, questioning Otway's authority, but Otway calmly tells him that no one has to follow him if they don't want to. However, the rest of the group decides to stick together and head out. Before leaving, Otway asks Hendrik to collect the wallets from the dead for their families. Diaz grumbles about it, but Otway insists it's the right thing to do. As the group moves out, they struggle through the deep snow, and Todd falls behind. He's attacked by wolves, and Otway can barely hear his cries over the wind. By the time he reaches Todd, he's already been mauled to death. The group keeps moving, but the snow slows them down, and soon it's dark. They see a pack of wolves closing in from both sides and try to make it to the forest as fast as possible. They take a tumble down a slope, but they manage to start a fire to keep the wolves at bay. The wolves keep howling around them, getting closer and closer. Otway starts gathering sticks to make spears for defense. Diaz complains about everything, saying it's pointless, but Otway calls him out for being a coward, hiding behind his tough talk. In the end, no one's immune to fear. Everyone's scared.
You're scared.
Otway makes it clear that talking big won't help them now. Diaz can't hold it in anymore and storms at Otway, holding a knife. He wants to get this over with. Talget steps in to stop him, but Diaz pushes him away with an elbow. Otway, not backing down, kicks the fire to distract him, then tackles Diaz to the ground, telling him to cut it out. He's had enough of this. Right when things are about to escalate, the alpha wolf appears, making Diaz crawl back in fear. After showing his dominance, the wolf walks off. Diaz is still breathing heavily, clearly rattled. Otway hands him back his knife. Diaz apologizes to everyone, but before they can process it, a wolf jumps on him from behind. They manage to fight it off, and Otway explains it wasn't the alpha wolf, but an outcast, just sent to test Diaz. They cook and eat the wolf, and even though it tastes terrible, it's better than nothing. Diaz, in a weird display of confidence, chops off the wolf's head and throws it into the bushes. A huge wolf howl echoes, clearly from the alpha. Diaz quickly regrets taunting the wolves. They grab their torches and keep moving. With Brute's condition getting worse, he can barely breathe. They decide to camp for the night. The group talks about their chances of survival, wondering if it's fate and if they'll make it out alive. Diaz doesn't believe in any of that, calling it all nonsense. They share stories, laughing through the grim situation. Otway remembers his father, an Irishman who drank too much, and quotes a poem his dad had written. Once more into the fray, into the last good fight I'll ever know. Live and die on this day. Live and die on this day. The words hit hard. A blizzard is coming, so they all bundle up. In the morning, they realize Brooke didn't make it. As the storm rages outside, they dry their clothes and rest, exhausted. Otway spots some marks on the trees, meaning there's civilization nearby. They walk to the edge of a cliff and hear the sound of a river. The river is their best chance of survival, but they have to figure out how to get down the cliff. Otway suggests climbing down the trees with ropes, or just jumping. It's a simple choice: deal with the wolves or take the trees. Hendrik volunteers to jump first. He says a quick prayer before leaping, but one of the ropes comes loose. Diaz barely manages to grab it, and just when things can't get worse, part of the snow breaks off. Diaz gets pulled back, but Hendrik manages to reach the other side safely and ties the rope to a tree. Diaz crosses next without any trouble, but Talget, afraid of heights, insists Otway should go next. When it's Talget's turn, his glasses fall off and his leg gets stuck in the rope. The rope snaps, sending him crashing into a tree and tumbling through the branches. At the bottom, he hallucinates, seeing his daughter. Then, in a twist, it's the wolves tearing him apart. And just like that, only 3 are left. While they're climbing down, Diaz falls from the tree and injures his knee. They keep moving along the river, but Diaz can't keep up. He tells Otway and Hendrik to leave him behind. He's done. He hands Hendrik his wallet and refuses to keep going, ready to accept his death. He wishes them luck, and they leave. Not long after, the wolves tear him apart. Hendrik then asks Otway what he was doing in the bar the night before the flight. Otway brushes it off, but Hendrik sees through him. He looked just like Diaz, ready to give up on life. It's not important anymore though. 2 wolves suddenly start chasing them through the snow. Hendrik falls into the river, and despite Otway's best efforts, Hendrik's foot gets stuck between the rocks, and he drowns. Otway climbs out, soaked and alone, with only Hendrik's backpack. He's freezing, surrounded by wolves, and completely losing it. He screams at the creator, demanding a miracle. He's had enough of hoping. When he calms down, he picks himself up and keeps moving. Eventually, he pauses and lays out all the wallets from the group in front of him, looking at the photos of their families and loved ones. Everyone had someone waiting for them at home. He checks his letter one last time. He realizes he's right in the wolves' den. They've been heading straight for it since the beginning. He laughs bitterly at the irony. Surrounded by wolves, the alpha glaring down at him. The other wolves back off as if to say, "He's mine." Otway thinks back to the last time he saw his wife. She told him not to be afraid. He remembers now that she didn't leave him, but passed away. Otway tapes many bottles to his right hand and a knife to the other, smashing the bottles, preparing for the final fight. Standing up, he begins reciting his father's poem one last time. What happens next is anyone's guess.